All right, welcome. So we're here at the Team O'Neill Rally School, and all we're going to do is run around real quickly and give you guys an overview of the vehicles that we're using and what you would be driving, really, I guess, if you were to come here to the Team O'Neill Rally School. So right off the bat, the first thing that we typically start with here is we get you guys into front wheel drive, get you good at left foot braking and the basics of weight transfer and car control and everything else. To do that, we use the Ford Fiesta platforms. These cars are really pretty unmodified. We've got heavy duty suspension, we've got wheels and tires, we've got full skid plate and underbody protection underneath. They've got roll bars in them, they've got the passenger safety systems and that sort of thing, fire extinguishers, etc. But really, very, very close to a Fiesta that you would buy off the dealer floor, just a 5-speed manual transmission. Engines are unmodified, and really good cars to train on and good cars to learn with. So what we've got here is a few of the turbocharged all-wheel drive cars. They're kind of sprinkled around the fleet right now. These are for some of the more advanced courses, but again, it's basically, you know, early 2000s turbo Subaru, mid 2000s turbo Subaru, another early one. There's a Quattro in the mix right now. Again, just because we're moving cars around, so things aren't the most organized here in the parking lot. But these vehicles, again, we leave the engines, transmission, driveline stuff pretty much unmodified. We don't need a ton of horsepower to get around, to train and do everything that we're doing with the road surfaces that we've got here. These things really, they're going to see full roll cages, they're going to see safety upgrades as far as the restraint system, fire extinguishers, that sort of thing. Full underbody protection, again, skid plates and all of that stuff. These have the fuel lines and brake lines inside the car. But really there's not too much that's been done to these as far as performance upgrades besides that, and suspension. Again, suspension in these vehicles, we're using the heavy duty Bilstein Motorsport suspension, the 46mm stuff. That's very, very good for what we're doing, and they are adjustable, which is nice for different conditions. But other than suspension, wheels, tires, those are really the only performance modifications that have done to these. Brake pads, you know, we're running the Good Hawk brake pads on these that give you a lot more bite. But other than that, all of these vehicles are very close to stock. Alright, so as far as the rear wheel drive fleet here at Team O'Neill, we use the E30 platform BMWs. They might look like they're kind of parked in the weeds. We're moving some stuff around to get ready for plowing for winter. But these vehicles, again, pretty unmodified. These ran from mid 80s into the early 90s. Straight 6-cylinder engine, 5-speed manual transmission, probably a whopping 130-ish horsepower or so. Good rear differentials in them though. Some have the limited slip. I believe we've had a few welded. So really fun rear wheel drive, lightweight, small cars. 4 doors, and these get around pretty good. Some of these ones, this one's in the official Richard Petty blue. This one is in some factory dark blue, and then going down through the loop, we've also got a Rogue One hiding back there is a late 90s BMW 318 Ti, which is a hatchback. And that one has seen a manual transmission swap as well as a E36 M3 engine swap. So that one's just a ton of fun. Alright, so getting into some more of the all-wheel drive cars. We've got the Subarus and we've got Audi Quattros, and a lot of people wonder, well, what really are these things? These are Audi 4000 Quattros. So it's an inline 5-cylinder engine. Again, a little over 100 horsepower is plenty to deal with some of the roads and challenges that we put in front of people here. 5-speed manual transmission. These were made, again, from the mid 80s to the late 80s essentially. The nice thing about these Audi Quattros is they come from the factory, 5-cylinder engine, 5-speed transmission, locking center differential and locking rear differential. So when you've got these things locked in, which we always do here, you've got a really true 4-wheel drive system. It makes them pretty much unstoppable in winter conditions and on muddy roads. But you can probably imagine, if you know a little bit about cars, that locked differentials, the car doesn't particularly like to turn. So it can get a bunch of speed up. You've got all kinds of traction as far as accelerating, but they are a little tricky to get around the corner. Left foot braking, if you've seen any of the Group B rally videos, is critical in these things. And being smooth and getting the weight shifted where you need to make it around the corner. Takes some good practice, but it's great training that translates into all different kinds of vehicles. Alright, so what we've got here is more of the Ford Fiesta fleet. These are cars that we use on the first few days of training, but many students fall in love with the front wheel drive, or they're here specifically for it, so we do use them into, you know, day 3, day 4. We've got several of them that have full roll cages and the real safety stuff and everything else that we've got going on. Some of these cars, these little purple ones, are just for day 1 and 2, so they've got the roll bars instead of a really full roll cage, but that's really the only difference. Still full skid plates underneath, no engine modifications, transmission's completely stock, stock axles, and the whole driveline is original as you'd see it in a normal vehicle. Just heavy duty suspension, wheels and tires, underbody protection and safety equipment, and these things are good to go. So this one, again, another mid-2000 Subaru, somewhere in there, 06, I'm not a Subaru guy, not entirely sure, but this is really the platform that we like using most here at the Rally School. For our all-wheel drive training. It's an all-wheel drive sedan, 4 doors, full roll cage, full underbody protection, good suspension on it, but the 2.5 liter non-turbocharged engine. A lot of times around here on technical roads, anyone who rally crosses knows that these things are as quicker than the turbocharged cars. But for us, they're a lot lower maintenance and they do everything we need to do with them. And they're great little cars to run. They look sharp and they're a ton of fun to drive. The other thing that we've got a couple of here, we call them DSC cars. What's DSC? DSC is Dynamic Stability Control. All of these rally cars that we're looking at here, we've deactivated the anti-lock braking systems and the traction control and the stability control and all of that. But we do have a few cars that are around for customers and different clients who want to see, well, what does ABS do? What does traction control do? What does stability control do? So we've got these cars where the systems are still functioning and we can turn them on and off so that people are able to drive them and see more. Once you learn how to drive a rally car, the question is, how do you take that to the street? You learn good rally skills and left foot braking and skid control, then you hop in your daily driver with all the modern safety systems, and some stuff just works a little bit differently. So we've got a few vehicles set aside specifically for that purpose, and they work really well. So we've got here, as we're walking around, we've got another all-wheel drive turbocharged Subaru, and a lot of the questions we had is, why do you use the wagon? Well, the answer is, it's really only very slightly heavier in the back end, and other than that, it's exactly the same car. So when you're looking at these, if you're deciding, hey, I want to build a rally car, okay, the sedans might look a little cooler, but realistically, it's the same vehicle. It's just as much fun. Once you're in the driver's seat, honestly, 99% of people wouldn't even notice. There's a little extra glass in the back and a tiny bit more sheet metal, but really, it's the same vehicle. These all-wheel drive turbocharged Subarus, they are a ton of fun. We get into them in the more advanced courses, and yeah, it's a pretty good time. So walking around here, what we've got hiding out back is another, this is a 1984 Audi 4000 Quattro, so a little more rare. They're a little lighter. They've got a slightly different rear differential. I believe the final drive is still a 411 in these ones, but it's a little lighter chassis. The doors are lighter. It's a little simpler. Really good cars, hard to find. This one's got no sunroof, so specifically a 1984 Audi 4000 Quattro with no sunroof, pretty good to go. So again, our quick little tour around the shop here. This is another one of the Subarus. Again, this one's a 2.5 liter all-wheel drive non-turbo, but it's up on the wash rack and you can really see what these cars go through. This one just got done going through a 4 or 5 day long class. This is what they all look like at the end of the day. So you can tell a lot of them are cleaned up and they might look decent, but as you're driving them around, we like to get dirty. All right, so what we've got up here, some of the more special vehicles, but they're not particularly special. When you come here, you can drive most of these cars. These are the Ford Fiesta STs. So turbocharged front wheel drive car. Pretty much everybody that matters named these car of the year when they came out. They're really great. Fast front wheel drive platform, good front differential in them, good suspension, rally style suspension, the 46 millimeter Bilstein stuff. The Good Method race wheels, the Yokohama tires and everything else. Proper rally tires on most of these. So once you get past day 1 and day 2, when you get into front wheel drive cars, you can expect something more like this. You've got a lot more grip and a lot stronger tire, and they really get around pretty great on dirt roads. Other than that, the full skid plates and the underbody protection, full roll cages, safety harnesses, and all that other stuff that we've already talked about. We do have 4 of them. One's off the property right now at another location that we're doing some driving. But these 3 Fiesta STs are pretty much always here. And we use these depending on how well people are doing. Day 3, day 4, certainly day 5 of the rally school. You're more than welcome to drive these things as long as you haven't earned the pink helmet too many times. Right, so going around the circle up here, again, some of the more special vehicles. The first one in line here is a fully prepared Ford Fiesta R2 rally car. So this has been highly modified. It's a normally aspirated, almost 200 horsepower, sequential transmission, full Ryger suspension, full FIA legal roll cage. This thing's ready to get out on the stages. It's a Rally America legal car. It's legal in Canada, it's legal in NASA, it's legal with the FIA, it's going to be legal with ARA next year. So a car like this, it's kind of a Swiss Army knife as far as you can take it a lot of different places. You can do a lot of different things with it. They're super fun to drive. They're not too expensive to build and maintain. And you know, we've proven at least that these cars are capable of winning two-wheel drive in any one of those racing organizations. So really highly competitive car. Next to it, what we've got is another chassis that's about to be a rally car. This just came back from the paint guy. It has seen full seam welding, the roll cage installation, and everything else that we do here in-house. And it's about to go back into the workshop for assembly. This one, I believe, is going to be an R2. This one's an ST. This is a turbocharged Ford Fiesta ST rally car. So that's normally aspirated. That one's going to be turbocharged. And then next to that, what we've got is one of the first generation Focus rally cars. This is something that has got the M Sport body and a lot of the different parts from when you probably remember Colin McRae and everyone else were rallying these things. Great little cars. This does not have the full four-wheel drive turbocharged drivetrain in it. This was something that was used as a marketing vehicle and everything else, so it doesn't have all of the fancy bits. I'm going to say yet, because as we start accruing more of them, we've kind of salvaged this vehicle. This is going to be a really cool build once we start getting some more parts in-house. So expect something really cool to happen with that one shortly. But next down the line is a brand new 2016 Ford Focus RS, which everybody knows, four-wheel drive, turbocharged, super mean, just came out. Really great car for this. This one has been converted to heavy-duty rally suspension, downsized the brakes to fit 15-inch wheels and rally tires. It's about to go in and get a skid plate, and then we're going to be going hot with this one. We do have another one that's actually in the shop right now, getting a full roll cage installed in it. That's going to be the first Focus RS rally car here in the States. But this is the second one that we're going to keep driving here at the rally school, and potentially in the future we're going to have this car be able to, you know, give rides in it, and some of the advanced students will be able to drive this car. Hopefully is our goal with that. Might as well keep going down the line. We've got a old Volkswagen Golf. That car is really just used for mechanical training. So at the end of the first day, once you're done driving, what we do is a short mechanics class and talk about just the fundamentals of how a car works. So you know, okay, the electrical system, the cooling system, the suspension system, the brakes, because every rally driver needs to be a little bit of a mechanic. Not a full mechanic. You don't need to build the whole car in the dark with no tools or something like that. But you need to know if a car breaks down or starts overheating or starts making a funny noise, what is it potentially going to be? What are the quick roadside fixes to fixing that? And that's really all we use that little Volkswagen for anymore. And we do have the more modern cars as well, but it's nice to have an older car where you can really see everything that's going on. Things are very simple. You can look at the starter, you can look at the alternator, where a lot of modern cars, it's really just hard to get to that stuff. So that's what the VW is about. We've got a wrecked Ford Fiesta R2 rally car that came back from a rally not long ago. That's going to get repaired. That's one of our customers' cars who races it, and he smashed it up a little bit, so we're going to fix that for him. And then we've got Kiana's. That is a 1-liter turbo Fiesta rally car that she just finished second, I believe, in the national championship in V-Spec with that one. So those are very cool little cars. Turbocharged, 1-liter, super lightweight, very close to stock because it's racing in the B-Spec class, but we are also developing that engine and driveline platform to be more of an open class R2 style high-speed rally missile. So we do have the modifications for that to make it a really mean machine. So this is a somewhat exotic Ford diesel truck. Something about this cab over style is rare here in America. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but there aren't too many of these things around. Anyone who's been in rallying and time attack and everything else might know this truck. It's the old Densport garage truck. It's been everywhere and it's kind of done everything. And our head motorsports mechanic, Pascal, recently just bought this, and he's converting it into a bit of his motorhome. So he's got windows, he's got doors, he's got a bunk in there, he put wood floors in, it's insulated, he's got heat in there. And he's having a lot of fun. He just got propane hooked up in it, and yeah, it's a pretty mean big black motorhome. All right, so another one of the cars that we've got hiding out here at the rally school, this is a Subaru Impreza. Really, this is a ProDrive built WRC spec little monster car that's hiding out here, kind of the wolf in sheep's clothing. It's the 2-liter spec, so it's the vintage that you probably remember Richard Burns and everyone else was driving in the World Rally Championship. But it's a 2-liter ProDrive motor, 6-speed. It's a H-pattern transmission in this one, but it is the ProDrive dog box, and it's got all of that stuff in there. And it's a really super mean little rally car, makes cool noises, blows flames out of the tailpipe and does all of that stuff. It's a ton of fun. We don't use it typically here at the rally school as far as students, but it's one of Tim O'Neill's personal cars that he likes driving a lot. I drove this at STPR a few years ago, and we take it out. It's rally legal, it's super fast, open class, super lightweight. It's lighter even than the modern Subarus. And again, the nice thing about these is you've got all the fairly modern running gear and a ton of horsepower and torque and huge axles and everything else, but you can still get these body shells for relatively cheap. So that's the nice thing about this car is if it did happen that this thing hit a tree or rolled over or whatever, you're not out as much time and money as you might be with a modern car, but you do have all of the really mean bits inside, and it's super lightweight and just a ton of fun to drive basically. Going down the line from the open class Subaru, this is an R1 Fiesta. What's an R1? It's basically a production class rally car. So this thing is legal for racing here in America and Canada, and it's really very close to a Fiesta that you'd buy off the showroom floor. All of the modifications that have been done are really just for reliability, simplicity to work on, and you know, the suspension and the brakes and that sort of thing, but the engine and driveline is very, very stock in this. Some of these may have a limited slip differential. We've been putting Quaife differentials in instead of the open differential from the factory because that does make a big difference. But it's a really good platform to start with. The R1 Fiestas, they're lightweight, they're affordable to build, they're really easy to maintain. You don't need to carry too many spare parts with you. We joke, it doesn't have enough power to break itself. So if you're racing one of these cars and you damage something, you really have to crash it to have to repair it. Other than that, there's not too much that can go wrong with them. They make plenty of power, they're tons of fun, and most people getting into rally will drive something like this for training and testing and race one for a year or two before stepping into a higher horsepower car with more exotic parts and a bigger budget and all that stuff. It's a great way to see and make sure that you love the sport and you're going to stick around with it and you're going to have a ton of fun doing it. All right, so we already looked at some of the Subarus. What we've got here, just some of the other ones lined up. This is an older GC8. Again, this has seen an engine transplant, driveline. This one's been around forever. This was one of the first two Subarus that we ever had here. We had two white ones. We called them the Marshmallows. This is one of the Marshmallows that's left over. But it's not quick enough. We don't typically drive it in the summer, but it's fun in the wintertime. I think that's a 2.2 liter. It's been around forever. Many students have driven that car, and it's a good one. Moving down the line, this is one of the newer ones. This is a 2.5 liter, 2.5 RS, so it's a 4-door, pretty close to stock internally, stock engine, stock transmission, but you can see heavy-duty big rally suspension and mud flaps and wheels and tires and skid plates underneath and a full roll cage and harnesses and all that stuff. So this is something that you can easily get into here at the rally school. Going down the line, We don't really need to talk about each one in particular, but you can see we run a mix. More recently, we've been buying up and building these. So we've got a few of the Hawkeye variants and whatever you call that one, and the Bug-Eye one, and another one down at the end. Basically 2.5 liter non-turbo engines, very close to stock, good suspension, good brake pads, good wheels and tires, safety modifications, and they're pretty good to go. Sort of thing. We also have a couple of, we call them our bumper cars, but we've got a bunch of these Crown Victoria Police Interceptor sedans. You can imagine what those are for with the big steel bumpers on them. It's great entertainment for different courses that we do. It's good training, and yeah, if you've ever driven a Crown Victoria going fast, it's a pretty good time. So what we've got here hiding in this little barn, we've got a bunch of the Kawasaki side-by-sides, UTVs, whatever you like to call them. These things are really good, super handy for us here on 600 acres to have these Kawasaki's around to be able to do a lot of the things that we do. It's a ton more practical than a pickup truck or an SUV when you're moving people and gear and equipment around. And it's just a nice way to get around here, really. We do training with these with the OHRV Safety Foundation. So we've got a mix of the Kawasaki Mules and the Terexes. So, okay, a little more utilitarian, a little more sporty, but both a ton of fun, get around really great, and do a lot of low-speed off-road driving through some really technical terrain. And we also do drive them at speed to see, because these vehicles are, as most people know, pretty prone to rolling over. Again, that's entirely operator error. And driven properly, you can get around quickly and capably and just fine. And really, you can almost keep up with the rally cars a lot of the time, but it's just a matter of driving them properly and safely. And it's not that hard to do, and so we started teaching people how to do it. So this is a Ford Escape. This was actually one of the production class. It's done the Baja 1000. It's a score legal off-road race truck. Doesn't look like much, but really it's got the 4-liter engine. There's a bunch of Jaguar parts and other things in it. The axle shaft is a really stout all-wheel drive SUV that was built for desert racing. And we've got it here for a couple different purposes, mostly just because it's fun to drive. And we can do training for some of the Baja guys and everybody else that comes through. It's hard here on the East Coast to get, you know, trophy trucks and the real Class 1 buggies and that sort of thing. But this is a good way to get around and get a feel for the big suspension. It's got King suspension and everything else in it. So tons of fun to drive, makes cool noises, and goes really fast. All right, so what we're looking at here is a fleet of Jeep Cherokee XJ series sport utility vehicles. You might say, well, you're a rally school. Why the heck do you have a dozen SUVs? We use these primarily for military training, but we do also use them for anybody who comes here and wants to learn how to drive an SUV or a higher center of gravity vehicle at speed. What you're going to tell is, okay, you learn how to drive a rally car. When you step into one of these, you have to attack things a little bit differently. You can't be doing the big pendulum turns and the exaggerated sideways maneuvers that you can get away with in the Fiestas and the Subarus and everything else. So these are very good for learning trail braking and smooth weight transfer and everything else that we teach here. But the other thing that these are good at is low speed technical off-road driving. And we've got 600 acres here that's just kind of interlaced with technical off-road trails all over the place. So we do a fair amount of that with the rock crawling, driving over logs and, you know, through water bars and up and over rocks and articulations and side tilts and all these different situations that you can see in the off-road world. And we do a lot of that here, and that's what these vehicles are for. Really, they've got a full roll cage installed in each one of these. A slight lift just to keep things practical for what we're doing, but again, they're only 31 10.5 tires or something like that, so I believe it's a 2-inch suspension lift that these things see. The heavy-duty bumpers for recovery situations, but other than that, there's a mix of manual and automatic transmissions, and these things are really stout, really strong. They were produced for a number of years. Many of the parts are interchangeable, and if you're looking for a good little SUV, the Cherokee's definitely a good way to go.